Welcome to the Mom Founders Table. Pull up a chair and join me every week as I become your thought partner and help you lead to create change. I'm your host, Kelsey Kenry, entrepreneur, millionaire mom of three, and strategic business coach for established mom entrepreneurs. Every week, you will get tactical guidance to apply to your business, leadership, and life that will help you further your true success while also being invited into a new way of thinking and being that creates true freedom. I'm here to call you out and call you up, so take a seat and let's begin. Welcome back to another episode of the Mom Founders Table. I'm excited today because we have a personal friend of mine who we've been online friends forever, but we actually got to meet in person recently. And it just so worked out that she now is on the podcast as well. So this lady is incredible at helping you share your brand, elevate your brand, tell your story, and just attract more buyers. And her magic is really about pre-selling people. So I'm excited to get into your magic, your frameworks. And obviously we have a ton that we talked about before this. I think what you do is great and you are great. So thank you for being here. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah. First of all, the admiration and the excitement for our chat today, it's all really mutual. I think we've had such awesome, really high intensity sparks every time we talk. Anyways, yeah. So, hey, everyone, I'm Marianna Henninger. I'm founder of brandmagnetic.com. My background is in documentary filmmaking. I have an Emmy, 2 nominations. I basically spent 15 plus years of my life traveling the globe for some of the biggest brands in the world, everyone from like Microsoft to Hulu to Wells Fargo to HP, and then some of the biggest like news organizations and storytelling organizations like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine. And then I was at NBC out of 30 Rock for the last 5 years of my corporate career before I realized I was a closeted entrepreneur, needed to go out on my own, really wanted to bring this thing that I had, which is this ability to not only understand which stories would move somebody else, but how to build trust fast. So 2 things that I really honed in over the course of my career. I wanted to bring that to entrepreneurship and more specifically to the online space. I'm obsessed with coaches, basically people who have fantastic expertise and who are looking to have a much broader impact with what they do. And I do work with folks that do one-on-one work as well. But this idea that you don't have to be tied to somebody else's business or tied to somebody else's schedule or even tied to one-on-one if you want to do more one-to-many. And so how do we build trust online faster? How do we stand out? How do we tell the right story so that we can attract and pre-sell premium clients into our programs? And that's what I help with.
Yeah, and it's so needed. I think now more than ever. Like one of the discussions we were just having was about the structure of my new mastermind and how, because I know that that's where people are, that we are actually putting a money back guarantee in our mastermind. And so I'm so curious to dig into the nitty gritty of this because I think regardless, I know that like my listeners are all across industries, right? They're moms, they're busy and they do have, even whether it's my chiropractors or my dental people or all these different careers that we have, I think there is this reality of we have to build trust for people to buy from
Oh, yeah.
us. And so what would you say just on the topic of trust? Like what are some ways that we can get better at building that trust that we might not be thinking about?
Fantastic question. I think just to add a little bit more to the setup of where we're at right now, without repeating what most of us, if we're marketing ourselves online, we kind of know what everyone is talking about in regards to the trust recession, in regards to people being burned by, folks who oversell and underdeliver. I'll put myself in that bucket of having like bot programs that just didn't deliver. And to your point, you were making the connection about your mastermind and how you are uh, overcoming those objections and just helping people feel safe in their decision, which kind of ties to the answer to your question. So, what I like to think of the framework that we use is we think of them as trust triggers. So, we're looking at really, if you tie all the trust triggers together, they kind of group themselves into 4 main things that we need to pay attention to. And so, what we're looking at is how do we activate these 4 things when people meet us for the first time? So before I go into the trust triggers, I just want to dismantle this idea that we have that we need to build trust over a long period of time. we've kind of just
Yeah.
accepted that that is, yeah, I love that reaction. We've accepted that that is how we do marketing, right? There's no way somebody's going to trust us right away. We accept that. And so what we do is we create content and we deliver value and provide value and make connections and sort of show up consistently, ideally if we're doing that, over the course of what, 6 to 12 months. And we hope that at the end of that, oh my gosh, we've put enough into the bucket that they'll finally be
Yeah.
ready to trust us and buy from us, right? And I love to flip that on its head, Kelsey, because I think that is an incredible disservice to our clients that need us, right?
Mm.
And we know they need us. We just don't want to push them to buy from us, and that's fair, and we should not push them. But we have subscribed to the fact that it takes so long to build that trust. I don't think it takes long to build trust if you do it right. And most importantly, if you do it the moment that your ideal client is meeting you. And so what we do is really focus on that top of funnel to build trust instantly, to build trust the moment they meet you. And it might not be enough trust to get them to buy like that very moment, but it will
Right.
get them so close to that line. And I'll tell you what, if you do this correctly, top of funnel, when every time you do show up, every time you do show up on their feed, you do show up on their inbox, you're reaching out to them maybe individually because you can't do that for everybody. Every time you do that, you will have created the right real estate in their minds so that when they see you, all of those feelings are reactivated. So that's, I just want to like flip the script a little bit and let's focus on, okay, so how do I do that, right? What does that even mean? The four trust triggers are these. They're super simple. They're simple, not necessarily easy to execute on, but they're simple to understand and to aim for. The first one is that your ideal client needs to know that you get them on a very deep level. So this is like marketing 101, right? We need to
Yeah.
know exactly what are the conversations that are happening in the deepest darkest parts of their hearts and their minds. What are the things they're not even verbalizing? What is keeping them up at night? What are, below the surface level sort of demographics? Even I would say, when we talk about psychographics, sometimes we also stay surface level there. We don't just want to call out the symptoms. We want to talk to the deepest sort of roots of that symptoms. And in addition to that, the better we describe how much we understand what's going on, as you know, because you're great at marketing yourself, people will trust us for the solution, right? So we need to go like so many levels deep just on that trust trigger alone. The second one, and this is hopefully will make you smile because you do this with your clients and it is so necessary nowadays too. The second one is that you care about them. And by care, I mean your clients are not just a number on your Stripe screenshot that you flash all over the place, right? For those of you who are not just watching Kelsey's reaction right now, she's like
I'm just like,
raising her hands, glory, hallelujah. That's what they need to feel, that they're not just a transaction, a walking credit card. They need to feel that you truly care about getting them results. And, to your point earlier about your mastermind, we were talking about like, okay, so how does that money back guarantee work in regards to the work that they're doing? You're jumping, but you're jumping twice as much, right? Like you are showing up for them, you're giving them the support that they need to actually get the results that you're promising. That's trust trigger number two. They need to feel that the moment they meet you. So it's a high bar, but that's what needs to come through. Number three, this is the one that we sort of lean towards a lot. And in my opinion, sometimes because we lean towards this one so much, we forget the other ones or
mm,
we don't give them as much importance. And to me, it's number three on the list for a reason. And that is that you've got them. So this is the authority piece. This is the expertise piece. This is where your testimonials come in, where your reviews, the case studies, all of the things that sort of back up the fact that you know what you're talking about and you've done this before and you have the credentials. Again, a lot of people lead with that thinking like, this is what's going to sell them. At the end of the day, this is number three. They have to know that you get them first and then that you care about them. And by the way, I've got you, right? You can sigh a sigh of relief because you're going to be in good hands throughout this process. That's exactly the reaction you just had. When you close your eyes and you take a deep breath, that is what they want to feel. And then number four is we vibe. Our personalities align, our values align. This is where, you could have all three with somebody else, But if you don't actually like them, or you don't see yourself really enjoying the process of working with them, chances are you're not you might buy something low ticket from them, but you're probably not going to invest a whole lot or a whole year into spending time with them, because if you don't actually enjoy working with them, it's not going to be a fun process, right? And so you might get the results, you might have it might be successful, but are you actually going to enjoy your life in the process? And
Mm.
so when you hit those four trust triggers, my friend, as soon as they meet you, and the important, and one last thing I'll say, and then I'll hand the mic back to you, but the importance of doing it the moment they meet you is this. When people buy online, what they typically do is they'll see your name. They'll maybe, I mean, hopefully they'll see your name, right? There's a bit of the visibility thing that needs to happen. You need to be showing up. When they are curious about you, right? Their curiosity is piqued. What the very thing that they do, the very next thing they do is they check you out, right? So they're going on your profile, they're going on your website, they're basically assessing, do I want to invest any sort of attention and energy into this person? And that to me, my friend, is the most neglected moment in the customer journey, because we think that people don't care about who we are until they know what we can do for them. And that's partially true. They're going to be hooked by what's in it for them. But I guarantee you, the very next question they're asking themselves, because we do this too, is okay, but who is this person? Do I want to spend my attention, my time? What's the real estate they're going to occupy in my minds? This is where if they're going on your website, they're clicking on the about page, the second most visited page on your website. They're checking it out like, okay, but who is she? Who is he? And so
Mm.
we neglect it because when was the last time you looked at your About Me page? You threw some text on there and you forgot about it, right?
The
You're
call
like,
out. The call out.
we neglect to me, the most valuable part of that customer journey, because if we meet them right there and then, if we answer that question about who we are in a way that blows those trust triggers like right out of the gate, right? Where they like, oh my gosh, this woman, she gets me. She cares about me. Look at her. She's the expert. She knows what she's doing. And I really like her. She's awesome. Boom. Guess what? You're almost at the sale at this point.
Mm.
Then we just need to like overcome some objections or like shift some beliefs about your mechanism. But honestly, so because I do this with my clients and I do this for myself, I can't tell you the number of clients that have gotten that are like, I didn't know what you were selling, but I just knew I wanted in. This was before they engaged with my stuff because they were sold on me. And so I'll just leave it there. I feel like I've given you a lot, but that's sort of
My
like,
brain is exploding.
to recap, let's shift this lie that we need to build trust over many, many, many months. We do not. If we
Mm.
understand how to me, I call it like the instant trust test, is like when
Mhm.
they're checking you out, it's like a vibe check, vibe check. If we understand how to hit those four trust triggers, you get them, you care about them, you've got them, and you vibe, your personalities align. We do that the moment they're actually checking us out. By the way, in their own free will, in their own time, we're not paying them to check us out.
Mm.
We're not, engaging with them when they're literally out of their own free will. They're spending their time and energy to answer the question, like, who is this person? It honestly can happen like in 5 seconds. It can maybe take a minute, but we need to hit them right there and then. And that
Mm.
way, so we've set it up so that every time we do show up, that mental real estate is already occupied. And then, by the way, all of those memories, it's kind of like when you smell soap from your childhood, right? Like all of these memories and all these feelings come back. It's the same effect.
I think like this issue of trust, I was thinking just so many different directions in this. First of all, like you are so good. Like the fact that you just have the importance of this. And I think it's really important for everybody to hear, because I would argue that like 90% of our business problems could probably be solved by creating more trust, whether that's more trust with our team, more trust with our potential clients. Like
Yeah.
marketing, sales, internal, all of it. And like trust is such an important thing to me. And I think that's why depth of care is one of my values. And so, yeah, I just co-sign everything that you said, honestly, because I think that, and it's interesting to think. I want to go through these four triggers because as you were talking, I was like, oh, not only like I love the dismantling of the belief of like, okay, it doesn't need to be like a really long sales cycle. Because that's definitely a belief that I used to hold. And then I saw that dismantled when it's like I could just have a conversation with somebody because I'm typically that person. Like I'll go somewhere
Right.
and I'll just be myself. And then people are like, how do I work with you? And I'm
Right.
like,
Yes.
and so I think just understanding that there are these points that we can hit, and what was really striking to me is they're not hard. Like we love to make things harder, right? But it's
Mhm.
like, okay, knowing your ideal client, is it uncomfortable? Does it require heavier thought? Of course, but like it's the same thing. Like messaging and marketing go hand in hand. Anytime somebody's sales aren't working, I'm like, okay, what's your messaging look like? Right? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
we go, and that's like the development of like what does a day in the life look like? What are they thinking when they wake up? How are they moving throughout their day that I
Mhm.
talk about so often? So that part I think is missing for a lot of people because we're generally just like selfish and we live in our own lives in our own heads. And so taking ourselves out of that seat, and a lot of people, their ego gets in the way of like market research, right? And I know a
Oh
lot
my
of people have
gosh.
like spun that into a fucking uncomfortable sales conversation. Like, I have to do some market research, but like even you and I, we swapped in the car that day to where you were
Right.
asking me questions. And then before this,
I
I'm like,
pulled out
tell me
my
about,
phone.
yes, yes, to where it's like it's not an awkward conversation, but like you do have to stay curious. You do have to ask your potential clients like
Oh, 100%
questions
healthy.
and inquire more and not assume that you know it all. And so, yeah, knowing people on a deeper level, taking the time to actually like I think it's the time up front. Like what was
I mean,
coming up for me when you were talking about that is going back to the messaging portion and truly understanding people is there is a level of care that
yes.
requires up front, and like we're so short-sighted when it comes to business that we're like what is the thing I can do to get the fastest result? But I'm like if you do that thing, those results are going to require more effort. Whereas if you do these things like you're talking about, where you're creating trust, it actually is going to shorten your sales cycle and make sales easier.
100%. So, my entire business is moving towards shifting the belief that we need sales at all. When you do marketing the right way, which is trust,
Yeah,
you don't actually have to sell. And I'm not saying you don't talk about your product. I'm not saying
sure.
you don't, if you're sometimes you need to go and make the ask, but for the most part, you're going to be attracting people who are pre-sold. And that's how the entire mechanism works. I'll say one other thing too because, you mentioned how very sadly, I don't know why I laughed. We have a lot of people in this industry or in online have dirtied the name of market research. Essentially like how can I put the wrapper on this that will dismantle people before they get on basically a sales call with me,
Yeah.
which makes me super sad. However, if you are approaching it from not that standpoint, from literally like, I want to have more conversations with the people who I know will benefit the most from what I have to bring, who need me the most and don't know it yet. Those are like, you mentioned about doing this work at the top. I love doing this work all the time. Like, all the time. First of all, because people's reasons for buying, the way they articulate things, the way they're moving in space, the way that, the world is shifting, all of that changes how they talk about their problems, changes how they're thinking and feeling. And so yes, we need to have that really strong snapshot from the get-go, but keep doing it. Keep connecting with your people. You are going to get it makes your marketing so much easier. So the same way that great marketing through trust building makes sales so easy, great talking to your people makes your marketing so easy. The second
Hmm.
thing that I'll add to this is because part of my process is teaching people how to have these conversations and how to extract like those deep layers from the conversation. Thankfully, I spent like 15 years of my life literally interviewing people for stories where sometimes we were spending hours and I obviously don't spend hours with your customers, but this idea that depth requires a bit of time and don't get surface level. Like how do you describe your pain point, right? Like you really need to get deeper than that. The one question, so I'd love to share with your listeners, like one of the key questions that I have people ask. Now, this is a little bit differently because it's market research, yes, but it is with the people who have just bought from you.
Mm.
The reason why, and so this again, this is something that I am always so shocked that I hear nobody else talk about. The way that you can look at the customer journey is that they're basically working their way up a hill towards the trust tipping point. That's what I call like the moment they're ready, like the trust hits 100% and they're ready to buy. Most of us, when we get to that point, we're like, great, sold. And then hopefully we have a good onboarding process, et cetera, to keep them there, to keep it. We know how important that first moment inside our world is. Another reason why that first moment is so important is to essentially give us the best snapshot ever of what it took them to go from 0 to 100. Here's why. If we wait to have those conversations after they've worked with us, because typically what do? We talk to people, if we're doing market research, right? We talk to them when they're either kind of warm or still a little cold. And then we don't talk to them again until they've had results in our program, right? Because they're like, okay, great. Tell me how, let's tell other people how this was. What did this do for you working with me? Talking to them the moment they bought from you gives us, again, the snapshot of what got them from 0 to 100. So the best question that you can ask is and by the way, this is untainted by working with you. So they haven't worked with you yet. They don't know they haven't experienced the magic from the inside. All they have is the magic from the outside that worked for them. Right. And so what we want to understand is what stories, what did I say? At what point in time, what story did I tell? What words did I use that made you click, that really stuck for you? And so the more that we can get these pinpoints of magic that really hit this person, assuming they're the ideal client that we want to attract more of, the more we're going to understand which parts and which words to really highlight at the top.
Mm.
And then the other question to ask, so which stories, which quotes, which video did you watch? What part of that video really touched you? That's what we want to glean. The second thing is, why did you buy from me specifically? Why did you buy from, what was it about me that made you choose to work with me? That's going to unveil for you which parts of your story, which parts of your awesomeness, your personality, that trust trigger number 4, which parts of your personality do we want to highlight again at the top? And what I mean by that is the way that me and my clients do this is that we do this with what we call a human connection video. To your point, it's like we know how to hit these trust triggers, but it's the hard part is like, how do we hit them in one go? So that after like 2.5 minutes, we've hit all 4. And this person's
Mhm.
like, whoa, in this little bit of time, I already feel like I know them. Like like I'm here. I'm paying attention. This is my gal, potentially, right? Maybe they're not ready to hit buy, but they're very close, or like they're a lot closer. And so when we understand what was it about me specifically, those are the parts of your story that we're going to use in your human connection video.
So good. It's so good. It's so good. And instantly, I'm like going back to conversations that I've had with clients to where I'm like, talk to your people, talk to them more often, ask for feedback from your team more often. Like, make sure, like, keep the
Yeah.
communication rolling. Like, the more we can never have too much data, we can never
No.
have too much. Like, so I love that idea of asking those specific questions right after so that you can start to pinpoint, like, this is doing its thing, like, this is
Right
turning
after
people on.
Kelsey.
This is,
Yep.
I love,
Before
love, love
they've
that.
like gotten all the magic from the inside, because then it's going to be confusing. They won't necessarily remember what their outside perspective was. And
True.
so to me, it's like part of our onboarding process with my new clients is like before I even like actually get to the onboarding, I ask them these things. And sometimes I do it in a form, sometimes I do it on a call. I kind of like to do both because then you get the onboarding form just kind of goes immediately to them. There are other questions that I don't need to flush out with
Oh,
them.
I'm
I can
like immediately after this telling my COO to add this to our onboarding, like immediately.
lock it in. Lock it in.
I
It's
love
so
it.
good. It's the best marketing magic ever because again, assuming that you're dealing with like ideal clients, right? If somebody onboards and then turns out not to be the best client, hopefully like you have some sort of selection process where that doesn't happen. But if it does, then you can kind of don't use that information. You want to attract more of your dreamiest clients. So when you're like, oh my gosh, I think she's going to be a dreamy client, like all the green lights are going, get a snapshot, get like the depth of what actually clicked for her or for him to come into your world.
Yeah,
And you
because
can just
you
like,
know why I love this so much is like number one, I love data. I'm such a data nerd
yeah,
of like, let's just look at what the data says because it's non-emotional, right?
yes,
But also, I think it creates a connection point because I think what's difficult for a lot of people is that we know that like marketing essentially is a layered process. It's typically not like one video or one post. It's something like they saw somebody else say something about you, and then it's like they listen to your
Snippets,
podcast,
right?
and then yes. And so I think to be able to actually have data around like what were the layers and in what order can
Right.
be really validating, especially because like marketing is such a huge pain point for all business owners. Like nobody
Right.
like is like,
Right.
I love marketing. It's so fun.
I think we should all love marketing, to be fair, Kelsey, because all it is making it easier for the right people to choose us and to
Yeah.
give them the autonomy to choose us. The more that we give them exactly what they need to hear, exactly how they need to feel in their own time, in their own space, where we're not having to make multiple asks, right? Like that is the buying experience that most sophisticated buyers want to have. They don't want
Mhm.
to be pushed. Nobody wants to be pushed, actually, regardless of sophistication. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to be pushed. Like most people, if you're selling like a high ticket offer to, again, sophisticated buyers, most of them kind of have an idea of what they need. The reality is they're just trying to see who they're going to go with. And then once they're sold on you, there might need to be, and so this is why when we work with clients, it's like we have the human connection video. That's the heart of the trust ecosystem. And then we have the specific pieces of content that are going to shift the right beliefs and tell the right stories so that, okay, they might be sold on you, but they still need a couple of different snippets that sort of reinforce and to be fair, kind of keep you top of mind. And so we use an entire like retargeting engine with all of these smaller pieces of the ecosystem because there is familiarity bias that is part of buyer psychology, but we don't rely. So the reality is that the volume play that most people preach hopes you get through. First of all, it's a pain in the royal A. Second of all, you're hoping that the algorithm gods shine their delightful face upon your business and even surface you to the right people, hopefully. And then secondly, you're hoping that by showing up enough times in their feed, they're going to be familiar. It's like, what a backwards way to build trust. The other thing too is like, if that's the strategy that you're applying, what you're doing is basically microdosing your audience over months and months and months. They are building that picture of who you are and what you're about
Yeah.
with like tiny doses at a time. What I say is like, give them to them straight right at the top.
Which would
And
just
then
extend the sales cycle, right? Like,
why are we doing this? It's painful
yeah.
for us. It's painful for
Yeah.
them. Like it's the most backwards way of marketing ever. And that's
Mm.
that's why I started my business really. Cause I'm like, you guys, what? You're not doing this already? It all started with the human connection video. Now we've sort of grown our program to include these other trust assets, I call them. They're basically pieces of content that shift beliefs, overcome objections, and more importantly, like tell the right stories in each
Yeah.
of those pieces truly move the needle. And once you have this trusted ecosystem in place, and yes, you're using a retargeting engine, that's what we work with our clients. Like there is a bit
Mhm.
of ad spend just to retarget. So that's the big difference too, Kelsey. I'm guessing some of your folks do ads. Kind of where are they at with ads? Okay,
Yeah,
so
so I have I would say probably like 70% of my clients do ads. It
run
just
ads.
depends, like I know one of my clients, like she just had a $500,000 month and like they have pretty high ad spend, but her profit is still crazy.
It makes sense, right? Yeah. So what we teach is not a crazy ad spend because all we're focusing on with ads is retargeting. You're
Yeah.
creating a warm audience and then you're hitting them with all of these trust assets. Essentially, you're showing up in their feed multiple times a day as if you were posting multiple times a day, but these are all the assets that you've created already in advance. And so you're
Mhm.
speeding up the sales cycle that way. You've got them sold on you right at the top because they've watched your human connection video. And now, in regards to your offer itself, you're making them see, by the way, these pieces of content don't have a CTA. They're not like they're not telling you to go anywhere. They're literally sharing the exact like belief shifts so that you're like, okay, I know what to do next. Cause
Yeah.
usually the call to action will be on your link in bio or something like obvious.
Mm.
And then we also sort of limit the paths forward. There's kind of like one path to take action. So you don't have to hammer in their heads. You just like gently, hey, if you want to learn more about how I do this with clients, DM me XYZ.
It's so good. Okay. I have a couple more minutes here and I want to get tactical for a
Yeah,
second
let's do it.
because I think that these 4 trust triggers are just wildly helpful for anybody and everybody. And so I would love to hear from you, just kind of, I call it pulling it all the way through. So, like, if I'm talking to a client, we're talking about like expanding your wealth capacity. I can get like woo for a second, and then I'm going to be like, okay, now go do X, Y, and Z to make this happen.
Yeah,
Yes. So I want to talk how for a second. If you
sure.
could give me an example for each of the four trust triggers. So I know for like the authority one, you mentioned like case studies and testimonials. But I guess for the other three, like
Yeah.
what would you recommend? Like what does that look like in our
Yeah.
marketing?
So the way that we do this with clients is that we stuff those 4 trust triggers, like we really like activate them with one single video, right? So that's our expertise is like, how do we do this in 2.5 minutes so
Uh-huh.
that every single person who comes into your ecosystem already feels those 4 things. We can talk about that, or we can talk about how we do it in the other pieces of content. Which one do you prefer?
Let's go pieces of content because I would rather people take these nuggets and then come to you and hire you to make
Yeah.
the human connection video.
All good, all good. So the first one we get them, we kind of talked about it, right? Like we understand our person at the deepest level by talking to them, right? It's not Claude, it's not ChatGPT, it's not AI giving us the best it can. It's literally what are our people saying? It's funny I said that because as I was unearthing some stuff for my website that's relaunching very soon, I was like, I've forgotten about these tests. I've forgotten about some of these interactions. I've forgotten about some of this really rich language that I hadn't done a good job of actually keeping it in one spot, which now I do. So, but when I was starting out, I wasn't. There's a little bit of a danger, by the way, if you grab language from like too long ago and now it's sort of morphed a little bit. So just we talked about that as well. But you're essentially marketing 101. This is not there isn't anything like mystical about this. It's literally understanding your people at the deepest level. It sounds like you teach this, Kelsey, to your own people. Staying, stop being surface level, stop being like, oh, I help you go from overwhelmed to clarity.
I was
Like
gonna say,
20
I think
million
it's the
other coaches.
vagueness. Like, it's
Yes,
getting rid of the
vagueness. It has to
vagueness.
be
It's speaking in,
specific,
like,
sensorial
moments.
language. Yes.
Yes. Paint the picture.
Specificity, paint the picture,
Yes.
play the movie in their mind that's playing in their minds, right?
Huh?
Tell the story with like, don't make it too long, but really set the scene and play the movie is kind of how we do it.
Uh,
In your pieces of content, right? So, and honestly, it goes back to being authentic too. I call it like raw authenticity just to sort of break the buzzword. It's you're really speaking from your heart. Like, don't be scripted. That's number one. The more you do that, the more they'll feel like you get them. Number two, you care about them. So the way to showcase that is to talk about the way that you care for your clients. And
Mm.
there's actually, so I can't take credit for this one, but I've definitely used it since because it really applies to my world. I heard somebody once say, how did they put it? You and your clients share tears or something like that. It was something about like getting emotional is kind of par for the course in your world. Not you have to make it not sound like literally bawling the whole time.
Yeah.
But this idea that like your client wins make you tear up. And so think about like the specificity of that. So, there's some of the same elements that we're borrowing from the trust trigger. The first one in regards to how we express this applies through all of them, right? It's specificity, it's the movie that's playing. So this idea that you care about your people so much, show them, talk about how you go out of your way to help them. And that doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. That means your people are showing up and you're also showing up. Which, by the way, Kelsey, this is kind of a tangent, related tangent, but part of our ecosystem that we build is we're also training our clients to be perfect clients. And by that I mean we're referencing that kind of behavior. We're talking about like how the people on the inside are showing up, how they're
Mhm.
doing the work, how they are accountable to themselves. Like the more you talk about your clients like that, the more you're going to attract people like that because your people are going to hear that, be like, "Oh, I would belong there. And look how much she cares about me because she's not only fostering this environment, but then she's going above and beyond to give her clients the resources they need, celebrating their wins. That's trust trigger number one. But you see what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then obviously staying away from language that just refers to them as leads. I mean, I have a pet peeve with the word leads, even though I do use it sometimes, just like
Literally, I cannot. I'm just like, I
there are
even like
people.
this I'm just like,
I
that
know.
feels,
I
and
know.
you know what's funny is I had a coach who like posted her Stripe thing after I bought with her, and I think my trust was broken from that moment.
Wow. See? Because you're like, wow, great. So that's all
I'm
this
like, you
was.
couldn't go on and be like, tag me and be like, "I'm really excited to work with
I
Kelsey."
know,
You
girl.
posted a s no.
Like
Like, I'm
that's
not
all it
that feels like
was,
shit.
right?
That feels like
You just
shit.
contributed to her bank account. And
For
I feel like
sure.
nobody wants that. I don't want to pay for your luxury vacation. This is not what this is
This is
about.
this is a big reason why I've been like even other, like, coaches had advised me, this is why I don't talk about how much money I make. I talk about
Mhm.
how much money I will help my clients make. I talk about
Right.
results. I talk about shifting the offer suite to be able to create more profitability. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I am an expert at what I do, and I deeply care for my people, but how much money I make is fucking
You're not
irrelevant.
flaunting. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, I mean, yes. So that's that's number two. The care is on one side. The look at me, how much money I'm making is on this side. The other way to show care is, I'll just like throw rocks at how some folks run their programs where it's like we are getting people signing up every however many hours, blah blah blah. I just heard this recently. I don't want to give you the exact quote because it'd be too obvious who I'm talking about. But a lot of people do this where they just like literally stuff people into their program.
Uh-huh.
So, what I talk about is how I hate that and I treat my clients differently. Like, I would never join a program where I just feel like a number, where I just feel
Sure. Yeah.
like I'm just tossed into this pool of people and because I've been there before and it sucked and my trust was
Yeah.
broken and I was burned. And so great. Now I'm burned. At least, the benefit of me for me was that now I learned how to market to other people who've been burnt. But
Sure.
so I feel like we've covered trust trigger number two. I'm just going to keep moving forward because I know we're out of time almost. But so number three is the expertise one. And we talked about testimonials, reviews. Honestly, like just show your work in action, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to start to post very soon what we call trust audits, where we basically look at what is this top of funnel snapshot look like from the outside. And I'm,
Mhm.
I've done years of like editing work, not just video editing, but text editing as well. So I'm very good at like looking at things very critically and being like, this is what it feels like to me on the
Mm.
outside. I sugarcoat it a little. I'm not like that. I'm not like rude about it, but I'm like, these are the vibes that are giving off. And this is
Yeah.
why. Let's fix it.
People need that honesty though.
We
Honestly.
need it. Absolutely.
I think that's the thing,
Dishonesty,
even with me, is like honesty is one of my values. Like, I'm not gonna let you
waste your
do
time and
like,
money. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I can't do it. I can't do it. You tell me you want to do something and then you go down another rabbit hole. I'm gonna be like, are we going that path or are we coming back to this path? Because we gotta be on
right.
the same path here, sister.
A
You know what I
hundred
mean?
percent. 100%. And so it's showing that too. It's right. It's like, so again, like with the trust audits, we're going to start posting this on our YouTube channel where you can see what this looks like.
Hmm.
And this was literally my friend telling me, like, Mariana, people need to see your brain at work more. I was like, ah, dang. For me, it's a little
It's
bit
so
easy. I can just
true.
like,
Like, I'm like, you're talking and I'm like, I'll just sit here, I guess, because this is great. I'm here to
uh,
receive.
I mean, I feel like I have kind of an easy shortcut in the credibility department because I have a two-word syllable or I'm sorry, two-syllable word that I can say that kind of like does like seals the deal. I mean, done.
Yeah, when you're like
But
Emmy, people are like, "Okay, ears are
I'm
on."
listening. But not
Yeah,
everybody has that, right? So if you don't have something like super simple to point to, I would say even then, I don't want to rely just on that, right? Like you should see more color and more like it should be more dynamic than that.
yeah. Mhm.
That's trust trigger number three. Trust trigger number four. It typically lives in your Instagram stories or in the sort of the background of everything else, which is
Mm,
like, how do you show up? How do you talk? What do you wear? Where do you going? Where are your values? I'll just give you an example of somebody I follow, and I kind of do this too. And Kelsey, let me, what? You're the example. When we look at your stories, Kelsey, what do you see? You're working out, you're with your family, you're doing things that are important to you. And so, for somebody looking from the outside looking in, we're looking at your values through those things, whether we're conscious about it or not. I'm very conscious about it because I'm always thinking about those things. But a lot of
mhm.
people, it's more subconscious, right? So the reality is like you're showing us what's important to you. Health is very important because not only is it a great value, but how you show up for yourself and for your body usually reflects how you show up for your business. And so it has nothing to do with your size. It has to do with your discipline and what you believe is important. So again, how are you spending your time? How are you verbalizing all of these other things that you're doing. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? Where it's like
No,
it's more of the
100%.
nuanced and the color of who you are
Yeah, because I think there's,
that
like,
shows
that
up everywhere else.
likability, relatability that's this part of the trigger, like you said, of, like, "Do I like this person? Like, would we vibe? Would we hang out?"
Exactly.
Like, and I think there's because that's been reflected to me a lot is, like, the health aspect, right, is something that, like, people want more of, or, like,
Yeah.
a big part of what I do is about time freedom, so it's important for me to be congruent in what I teach, and so
Yeah.
that's where it's like, I don't ever wanna post something that I'm like, "This is not something I actually do or, like, is actually a
Right.
part of my life."
Right. Right.
And I think it's cool. It's almost like it feels like that documentation of my life because I've been on Instagram since 2012, and so that's like sepia pictures of my dog. I was like, check this out, So I still have that like old school mentality of
Yeah.
like these are things I think are cool.
Yeah, and I think we long for that, right? Without needing to be on social 24/7. We want to see, and again, like for my clients, we pack that into that human connection video right at the top, especially helpful for people who where it doesn't come naturally to them, where they, are not used to sharing tidbits of their life. I never tell them they don't have to, like, hey, you don't have to do that because you've got your human connection video. I always think it's nice to keep that constant feed of showing your values in all these different ways, but it
Mm.
does kind of relieve a little bit of the pressure from that. Because essentially, without that, a lot of my clients didn't have any of that. All they had was
Oh,
the expertise layer. So, obviously, again, like it comes more naturally for some people. I think it's just a matter of like, what here's a tip for your folks. What would you share with your friend, right? Just imagine it's like a best friend on the other side. This is specifically for trust trigger number 4. I think with everything else, there is a positioning difference where you're not speaking to a friend, right? Where you're speaking in a friendly way, but you are somebody who can help them. And so the
yeah.
positioning there matters. A lot of folks who neglect that end up being friend zoned and they're like, oh, how did this happen? You know?
Yes. Yeah.
So
There
you're
has to be a
still
good
the expert,
balance.
right?
Mhm.
It's a slippery slope. You're still the expert. You speak to your people in the most loving way, but you're speaking from a place of, I know I can help you, right? And you're not pushing it on them. Just like, I know my stuff. And so let me show you, right? Let me show you how I help
Mm.
people. Let me show you what it's like inside my brain. Let me show you what my world is like. Come along. That's
Yes.
the vibe. It's the attraction vibe versus there's
Mhm.
absolutely no pushing and there's absolutely and then if you err on the other extreme, which is being too friendly and not really positioning yourself as again like the expert who has all this awesomeness around her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is so good, so helpful. Where can people find you? And what is if they are wanting to explore potentially working with you or finding out more about what they do, we could definitely put links in the show notes as well.
Sure. Two places I'm at. Well, you guys are podcast listeners. My podcast is called Empire Secrets of Digital Marketing. Kelsey's been on there. So follow me on my show there. And then otherwise, I'm most active on Instagram at Brand Magnetic. And there's plenty of stuff for you to explore in there.
Amazing. Okay, so we'll put all
Yeah.
that in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today, for your energy. I'm definitely going to be texting you about all these things. Thank you for the mind-blowing moments and just giving so much for me and for my listeners to think about. You are truly magnetic in what you teach and what you do. So I'm really appreciative of your time today. So we will definitely talk soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Kelsey. It was
All right,
fun.
thanks, lady.